There was a lot of back and forth between KJ Jefferson's game. Got to air it out a little. Missed on a couple throws like Sam Pittman touched on in the press conference. And we've kind of gotten both takes this morning. What was your takeaway from KJ Jefferson's performance on Saturday?
Overall, I mean, he passed for a career high, so you can't fault that. And he dropped that one on Warren Thompson perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But the first throw of the game to Tyson Morris, I think if he hits him in stride, that could be 6. And there was another one to Traylon Burks that he was open on a deeper route that if it's put right on him, you know, he's in stride instead of having to stop and I think maybe dive to make the catch. So, and then he went through a little stretch. It was late in the first quarter, early in the second, where they were getting a little pressure on him and the coverages were confusing him a little, and he threw really high. I know on a pattern on the sideline to Thompson, like real high. And it was just a little bit off. So he's sitting there at 61.9%, which you can live with. And I just think it's the plays that you know are there to be made that aren't made that frustrates you. But all in all, for a guy who's, you know, about to make his, I guess this will be his 6th career start, KJ's off to a fine start. And, you know, he didn't really get going in the run game the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I think Georgia Southern probably really tried to bottle that up, and Arkansas punished them a lot of other different ways. But I think in the Texas A&M game, they might, you know, try to unleash them more and make it more like Lamar Jackson last night.
Tom, I know your colleague Bob Holt was asking Coach Pittman about Traylon Burks' unselfishness because Traylon to this point hadn't had great statistics and then finally broke open that 91-yard touchdown. What does that say about Burks and just the rest of this football team that they don't really seem to care who scores, so they just want to put the ball in the end zone?
Well, it's a wonderful component to have on a team when people aren't worried about who gets it. But you know, all those backs, they want to contribute. You know, all those receivers. You could see Trey Knox a little frustrated when he ran the route and was breaking open, and Malik had already, it looks like, made the decision. He was going to turn the corner, and he saw a path to the end zone, so he took it. But I do believe that brotherhood, that unity, and caring about the whole more than the self is evident on this team, and that's part of what makes a good team. I mean, they're sitting here at 3-0, and that was just a workmanlike destruction of Georgia Southern, and it came without getting any turnovers. It just came with playing hard-nosed football, and they're going to need some more of that against A&M.
Seemed like it was feast or famine, though, for the Arkansas offense in a lot of ways. 13 drives, 6 touchdowns, 5 punts in the game. All 5 of the drives had ended in punts, Tom, as I'm looking at the drive chart. 3 and outs. So, I mean, it was kind of like you either got on track and you got to the end zone. They also had a field goal mixed in there as well. But you either got to the end zone, you scored, or you didn't get on track at all. What'd you kind of make of that? It either really worked or it really didn't work, kind of offensive flow Saturday.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a strange part of it. And I think that's why Sam Pittman was frustrated coming off the field at halftime that, you know, they had just given up a long field goal drive, and it was, you know, really one of only 2 drives that Georgia Southern put together in the whole game. And then his offense had several 3 and outs there in the later parts of the first half. So, you know, part of that was the overthrows and Georgia Southern just doing a few things from a coverage standpoint that confused KJ a little bit. So, yeah, you'd want to move the chains on every possession. It's just not going to happen. Even Alabama has 3 and outs. So just things to clean up. I mean, if you execute at a little higher rate, then you're not going to have as many of those 3 and outs. So all in all, though, I was looking at the stats yesterday. The special teams are coming around. Your kickoff game's going great with touchbacks. You've had decent returns from Ladarius Bishop. Bauer's been a little bit up and down with the punts, but if you take away the block punt, you know, their punting has been better. And, you know, they stay on the field offensively to a good extent. So if you clean up the 3 and outs just a little bit, just by a small percentage, you're looking at a pretty nice statistical team.
Yeah, Bauer even had that 60-yard punt, and it looked like on television that it was 60 yards in the air. This wasn't a wind-dated, this wasn't one that was wind-dated and came down and got the right roll. I mean, he boomed that. And for all the grief that Scott Fountain rightfully deserved early on in his tenure here, this special teams has turned the corner the last couple of weeks, and he probably hasn't gotten enough credit the last couple of weeks for at least the last two performances by the special teams.
That's right. They're just solid. And Nathan Peroty's returning punt 6 or 7 yards. Hey, you can live with that. And during the warm-ups, I was watching. Sam Lloyd was crushing punts. And I thought, well, if Scott Fountain's watching this, we might see Lloyd today. And Bauer had a good game. But, they mixed it up some last year. And if Lloyd continues to punt the way he did in warm-ups, I think we're going to see some of him too. He had some of the kind that turn over and become long spirals in the air. He was kicking 50-yarders down that were landing inside the 5 that were things of beauty. So, and Cam Little, who we haven't mentioned, is perfect on field goals and TATs, although he was a meme on the weekend, which was pretty funny if y'all saw that.
Yeah. Tom, you just jinxed him before the Texas A&M game, man.
Yeah. And none of Calvarusso's touchbacks got returned for touchdowns. He had 7 of 8 kickoffs into or out of the end zone. So I think that's an under-heralded stat when you can kick it out of the end zone and force your opponent to go 75.
Oh, there's no question about that. And the only one that wasn't a touchback, the dude fair caught it. And I would like to see a little bit more of that on the whole in college football because so many guys get tackled inside their 20 on kickoff returns. But, yeah, Vito's a huge component. I mean, you don't have to talk about it a lot because, basically nothing happened. But it's huge that the other team is not starting in anywhere outside their own 25.
Tom Murphy with us here on the Morning Rush. Tom, we got a chance to talk with Trey Williams following in the post game, and Trey had 1.5 sacks in that football game. Also had a personal foul. I know Scotty asked him, Coach Pittman, about that, and he said he needs to clean that up. What emergence have you seen from Trey coming off the edge, and do you consider him the best pass rusher on this team right now?
Yeah, probably so. Eric Gregory had good numbers, and Zach Williams pretty good numbers last year. But Trey Williams is just a veteran. He's been through all this. He's good at it. He's got good moves, and he said there's more to come. And if they could be a disruptive team, as we talked about all summer long, better pass rush, put the quarterbacks off rhythm, then you're talking about adding a new layer to who you are, to your persona as a defense. And the more you do that, the more quarterbacks are going to throw into coverage, and the better chances you're going to give your DBs. I mean, I just describe the Saturday game as workmanlike. They didn't force any turnovers. They just did their jobs, and they beat a lesser opponent. And the Chad Morris teams weren't doing that. And when you just smoke a pretty good, I mean, I don't think Georgia Southern is going to be at the top tier of the Sun Belt, but they're going to win some games. Mm-hmm. And you just smoke them. Like, you went out and took care of your business. That's a good sign for the Razorbacks.
Tom, when you look at this kind of quarterback situation, we spoke to KJ Jefferson. I was sitting next to a group of Hog fans that the only thing they wanted to see on Saturday was Malik Hornsby a little bit down the stretch. We saw him the majority of the fourth quarter. Has he done enough from a standpoint of that he's going to play like a play or two in a pivotal game? Like, do you anticipate Bryles and Pittman trying to throw him in there, or is it only going to be in garbage time or / an injury type of situation?
Yeah, that's a great question because all that's left of the season now is conference games, which you don't anticipate getting out of hand really, and UAPB. So, yeah, if everything goes okay, I expect him to play really quality time against UAPB. But to think that, let's say they get down to the 8-yard line and they're like, hey, this is a good package for Malik, I don't know if they'll do that. You don't want to throw KJ off rhythm. And, with KJ being in rhythm is a really important part of his game. Mm-hmm. So, also, we don't know everything that happens in practice, but what they've said of Malik is that he's looked good in practice. So I do think that he's got to, be a little bit better decision maker, and that comes with just game experience too. So what you'd hope is that he'd get a little bit of action as they go through this SEC section that's coming up, and then really get his first significant play. And you could call the Georgia Southern participation by Malik somewhat significant. And he looked okay. But developing the passing part of it, like going ahead and throwing that pass to Trey Knox, would be a good step too.
Yeah. So 2:30 Saturday, Arlington, Texas. You're playing the number 7 team in the country. A good top 20 matchup. Arkansas 3-0 for the first time since 16. A chance to go 4-0 for the first time since 03. I think there's a lot on the line beyond that. You start thinking about bowl implications way down the line. Who gets off to a 1-0 start in the SEC versus an 0-1 start? Tom, this game Saturday just has a huge feel between the Hogs and the Aggies.
Yeah, it really does. And Arkansas fans' frustration with this series, the Razorbacks can't let that burden them down. I mean, Morgan and them, they've been involved in a good handful of them, but Sam Pittman and his staff, they've been involved in the one. And as an assistant coach, a few, and some of the most frustrating ones, like in 2014. So they can't let that burden them. They've got to go out, and they've been a real physical team. And I think if they show that in this game, like hard tackling and just being real tough in the trenches, they'll have a chance to win the game. Their passing game has got to be a little bit more precise, if you ask me, to give yourselves a chance. And here's the thing. Haynes King has a broken bone in his leg, so they're catching Zach Calzada in his second start. Obviously, he's going to continue to develop, and it's like if Malik Hornsby was about to start his second game. Maybe he's not everything that the starter would have been, and maybe the package is more tailored. He had a good game against New Mexico, no question. But when's the last time you saw Arkansas, have a couple of games in a row where, like Texas, if Casey Thompson had played the whole game against Arkansas, it could have been a different outcome. But Texas went with Hudson Card, and it cost their offense for many series. In this game, maybe having Zach Calzada, they can pressure him a little bit. They can force them into some negative plays. So I think we're going to see a tight game, y'all, much like many of the games in this series over the last decade.
Tom, the interesting thing to me on Saturday is if Texas A&M loads up to stop the run, can they? Or the flip side, can Arkansas still overrun the Texas defense, the A&M defense? Even though they may drop a safety down in the box. That, to me, is the interesting matchup early in this. How good is this Arkansas run game? Saturday, we find out.
Yeah, we are, and I think you're right. I think Arkansas is going to make KJ Jefferson try to beat him with his arm, and I think there's going to have some wrinkles, the Razorbacks will, for this game.
Yep.
Tom, we really appreciate it, buddy. We'll get more of a preview on the Aggies on Thursday, okay?
Sounds great. Talk to y'all, man.
It's that time of the year again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your #1 spot for all of the pro and college football action this season. Get all of the updated odds, props, and contests, including the online's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest, the world's largest 200,000 NFL Survivor contest, open now at BetOnline. Here's what you have to do. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.